In this video, we take a look at 5 great items under $500 for producers and DJs. Find out which ones those are coming up. Thank you for watching P.TV, where you'll find tips, tricks, and tutorials for DJs and music performers. Now let's get into the video. This week's DJ deals are all for the producer. First up, we have the Roland Iris series System 1. This 25-key synthesizer is a powerhouse. Not only do you get the System 1 actual synthesizer, but this was the first Roland product to have the plug-out technology where you could actually import older vintage synthesizers onto the actual synth without having a computer connected. So you could get synths like a Juno or a SH01 and so on, and have that on the actual synthesizer as well as the normal System 1 synth as well. So not only do you get one keyboard, but you actually get multiple. And right under $500, this thing is a steal. They just introduced the System 8, which is actually a larger version of this. It has more capabilities, but if you're looking for something compact and still powerful and very flexible, this is still one of the best synthesizers for the money, in my opinion. And to pair with that, we have the Roland Iris TR8. Similar to the System 1, is not only just one drum synth, but multiple. First stock, you get the TR-808 and 909 built in, so two of the most legendary drum machines built right into this, and you can still load other drum machines as well, vintage drum machines from Roland. Now, I would say the 808 and the 909s on this are some of the best reproductions. Roland did a great job recreating the actual sounds from those vintage drum machines, and not only that, super easy to program, just like the old drum machines of the past, the classic ones. And it's really simple. If you've never really used a drum machine like this, like any of the old vintage drum machines, this step sequencing system and all the control layouts on this are really easy to get a grasp of. I mean, everything is one-to-one, so every knob and every fader kind of have their own control, and it's really easy to kind of navigate your way through, even if you've never messed with hardware like this before. Say you come from a software background, this is still super easy to use, super powerful, and it sounds great. It sounds nice and fat. The subs on the kicks and the snaps on the snares and the percussion sound great. And it's also digital as well, so you can plug this right into your computer, get full control. So if you are using this with a DAW, super easy to integrate. Or if you're using this on the road, or you're using this in a live performance without a computer connected, it's just as great. Super solid pickup. Again, another Roland Iris product right under $500, and one of the best drum machines. And I mean, it's the best to me because you get those two classic drum machines directly built in, the 808 and the 909. Those two machines are responsible for some of the best music from the last 30 years. So if you're looking to get that kind of sound and you really want, physical hands-on controls of how to use like drum machines and how to program, this is the one to get. Now, another great drum machine, drum synth option is this one right here. This is the Arturia Drum Brute. This is another great drum machine. This one is actually fully analog, has some nice fat sounding drum sounds. You can definitely tell that they're analog with the way this thing sounds. And Arturia has done a great job with the Brute series, from the Micro Brute to the Mini Brute, and now they introduced the Drum Brute, which is the drum synth version, or I should say add-on to their whole Brute line. This one has a kind of a different feature set than the Roland TR8, but still you get 17 drum sounds that you can sequence, still a lot of controls over each of the sounds. The sequencer on this is pretty much just as easy to use as the sequencer on the TR8. I love the wood paneling on the side to give it that more vintage feel. And you still get the things like the brute factor that Arturia made famous on the other Brute synths as well, to give, a little bit more grit and a little bit more punch to all your drum sounds. So if you're looking for something that's another analog drum machine, but not necessarily that TR-808 or the TR-909 sounds, you want something a little different. Maybe you feel that those are overused, or you just want a kind of different sound, but you do want an analog drum machine, this Arturia Drum Brute is a great choice. Now switching over to the computer production side of things, first up we have the Native Instruments Maschine Jam. This thing is pretty cool. At first I wasn't really sold on the Maschine Jam just because of the Maschine workflow from the past, from the Maschine Micro to the normal Maschine to the Maschine Studio. This is actually the first departure from that 16-pad 2-screen workflow that Maschine made famous for all these years. This is kind of a mix between the Maschine workflow and the workflow that you would get on, say, like an Ableton Push or an Akai APC. So kind of grid-based with the 64 pads, but still you get the things like, drumming out on 16 pads out of those 64. This one you also get step sequencing as well, and it has a lot of cool features, especially if you're trying to sequence instruments with building chords using the touch strips, to just different ways to sequence and just different workflows that you really haven't seen before, especially coming from the Maschine side of things. So if you're already a Maschine user, this is definitely a great add-on. Or if you aren't invested in the Maschine environment yet, I would say this is a pretty cool way to get into it, because not only do you get a lot of the features that you get from the normal Maschine, but you get features that you don't find, like the chord sequencing function that I described earlier. So if you're interested in getting into Maschine, especially because it comes with a great palette of sounds from the sound library, and you get Massive on top of it, which is still one of my favorite VSTs to use, this is a great pickup. And finally, one of my favorite all-time pieces of gear I've ever used. This is the first generation Ableton Push. Now, you really can't find these new, at least online anymore, but for $560 or so, I know it's a little bit over the $500 limit for this video, but this is still a great piece of hardware. This thing, I've made countless amounts of beats on it. It really changed the way I use Ableton, and still for under $600, this is a solid pickup. You get so much functionality out of this, and it opens up Ableton, in my opinion, so wide for all the new producers out there. Even as a seasoned Ableton user, once I picked this up, it really did change my workflow in Ableton, and it really brought me back to actually using more hardware and focused on the actual controller rather than going back and forth to my mouse and keyboard. This thing is great, whether you're a sampling producer that chops up samples and loops, or you compose your own tracks. This thing can basically do it all. And just the overall control it has over Ableton, you will find yourself using the mouse and keyboard less and less and less the more you get invested into Ableton Push. So if you are an Ableton user and you don't have a Push, for sure you're missing out. So that's a look at 5 great items under $500 for producers and DJs. If you're interested in purchasing any of those, links can be found down below in the description. If you find this video useful, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, go ahead and click subscribe right there. Or if you're interested in watching more content, go ahead and click on that video right there. And thank you for watching P.TV, where you'll find tips, tricks, and tutorials for DJs and music performers. See you next time.